Okay, hello everyone. We are here today on the very first Adapt Hangout that we have decided to run. So I'm here with three of the key collaborators on the Adapt project. So I'm here with Sven Loud, who's the Adapt project lead, and he's also technical director at Kineo. And then we have Paul McElvaney, who is the CEO at Learning Pool and one of the key collaborators on the Adapt project. And also sitting right next to me, Jason Butler, who's our Senior Adapt and Games Developer here at Sponge UK. And the three of them are going to be answering some questions that we've had in about Adapt, the technology, what the benefits are, and how you can get involved in the project. So to start off with, I'd just like to ask Sven if he'd be okay to give us a quick introduction to the Adapt project. If you could tell us a little bit about what the inspiration was behind setting up the project and also what the ultimate goals are for in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. So Adapt is really an open source project in learning technology, and we've got a vision to enable everybody in learning and development, including the education, academia, public and private sectors, to produce responsive e-learning with our free and innovative software. Adapt started its life as an internal development tool at Kineo, and we made the decision to go open source relatively early on the basis that technology is not really a differentiator, as we see it, but rather the quality of service, price, creativity. And open sourcing it enabled us to really collaborate, speed up innovation, and really stir up the marketplace. So the Adapt Open Source project was established, I think it was September 13, between Kineo, Learning Pool, and Sponge UK. And since then, it's been extremely successful, really. So we've got a core team of around about 20 people, consisting of 6 collaborators and organizations and several individuals, all of whom are making a significant difference, really. The team includes people from all over the world. That's the UK, US, India, Australia, New Zealand, and even as far as Plymouth. So yeah, it's been really, really interesting to see. What we've also got is a very active and helpful community of around about, well, thousands of people really, but from 189 countries worldwide. We've delivered at this point a very mature framework with version 2, and we've got the authoring tool, which is a version 0.1.2, so ultimately there's a lot of technology available. It's available for free, and really it's quite mature already as well. Just a quick note to say that we've also already won several awards. The most notable one is really the LearnX Platinum Award for most innovative learning design technology. And yeah, we've won that several years in a row, which is fantastic for us and a real compliment, I guess, to the team. Going forward, we've got an ambitious vision, really. What we want to do is we want to become the Moodle of the authoring tool world, and really to produce, as a community, the de facto market-leading e-learning authoring tool for responsive e-learning.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, that's quite a goal. But hopefully we're all going to be able to achieve that. I know that everyone's on board and working in the same direction. I've got a few questions here that we've had, some that we've had in like via social media and things like that, and some other more general questions. So I'll direct them to certain people, but if anyone else wants to jump in, then please do. So I guess I'll start with quite a basic one. I'll direct this back to Sven if that's all right, which is really what's the difference between responsive e-learning, like Adapt, and the kind of the mobile learning apps that you see?
Yeah, sure. So that's really looking at the difference between the responsive side and the native side. And there are two approaches, really, and they both have pros and cons. So with native apps, so the software that you install and run on your smartphone or tablet, you're really tied to the device. The pros of that are you've got much more control over what happens in the software, so you can use the device more fully, you can access the file system, you can maybe go into offline scenarios as well. However, on the con side, what you've got is you've got to create, maintain, and publish several versions of the content and several versions of the app itself. So With Adapt, it takes a slightly different approach. So we follow the responsive design side of things. And the key thing is that that's really come from the web and from the web industry. And we've seen this being established quite well over the past few years, that you've got one website, and that one website has to perform well both on your PC, laptops, as well as the tablets and mobile devices. And that follows the same approach, so we're just embedding that within learning and e-learning. So that content runs in the browser, and that gives us the chance to also use device capabilities. But the big advantage is that we can create a single version of content, and that plays nicely depending on whatever device you've got. So the key thing is that it has to adapt to the device capability, which might be smaller screen real estate on a mobile phone, slightly larger on a tablet, and maybe even larger on the PC. The benefit of that is, of course, it's much easier to create and maintain the courses. You've got far less work on that front. And it also makes things much easier, for instance, the tracking on an element. You've got a single code, and all of the reporting data, if you are tracking, goes into a single point in the database, and you can reach learners and switches. Obviously, depending on whether your LMS allows you to do that. It requires a different approach in that we've had to adopt the Think Mobile first and Think Smartphone capabilities first, and with that comes the necessity to think small, if you like, and make sure that it scales up nicely, as opposed to develop a full experience for a laptop or computer and then have that degrade. So we took the other approach, saying it has to work on the mobile first, and it then adapt according to the other devices. And we're finding as well, from a design perspective, we scroll quite naturally on mobile phones and tablets, and that's really been put at the heart of the design of it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. And just still staying on thinking about the fact that Adapt obviously is designed to adapt to different devices. But a question that I'll direct to Jason to start with, which is, do you have to design e-learning any differently when you're developing it for a multi-device platform?
I wouldn't say so. Well, you have to think about, as Sven mentioned, the responsivity of it. So each course, you want to be a seamless experience across devices. So if you're starting off on a laptop and then you move on to your phone, say on the way home on the train or whatever, you want it to have the same look and feel. Obviously, to make that happen, as Sven mentioned about sort of the real estate you've got available to yourself on a mobile phone in comparison to a desktop, that then means that certain components that you're using then sort of go into a different state. So to give you an example, one of the components we use a lot, which is a hot graphic, where you basically tap on items on an image and it brings up a pop-up to sort of explore more. When that goes onto a mobile, that then degrades, well, it doesn't degrade, but it sort of mutates into a narrative component, which you can then slide through and find out the content a different way. But it's essentially the same content, but it's served up in different ways to ensure that you get the same content through. So essentially, all you have to, as Sven mentioned, is think about mobile first. Think about the size you have available, things like word counts. You know, obviously, you've got a lot of content, and you want to be scrolling through it. You want to try and think about, is that going to be sort of detracting to the user experience? And essentially, you've just got, I don't know, you've got to just think about how it's going to look on a mobile, and then once you move up to a tablet, you'll notice immediately that change in layout. And then, so for example, the way we test a lot of stuff is we'll look at it on a desktop, and then we'll just simply drag the size of the browser down to show how that snaps and those different breakpoints to show how it does adapt to how it looks.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And kind of going on from that, sticking with development really, but I'll direct this one to Paul. We were asked, do you have to be an experienced developer to use Adapt?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose one of the great things about having an open source collaboration project is that the different collaborators can focus on the areas of the project that they're most interested on, commercially or otherwise. And the area that we focused on has been really around the authoring tool. to deliver that vision of making e-learning development accessible to anyone. So we've been really focused on the authoring tool side of the project. You update to that, I think, last week to the open source community, which is fully featured in version 2 of the framework. And what that's taught us is that you don't have to be an experienced developer or even a developer at all to build great e-learning using Adapt. We've got about 150 customer organisations across the UK who are using our hosted version of the Adapt authoring tool, and we've built countless hundreds of e-learning modules ourselves, and we've really focused on building those through the authoring tools. So that's where we see the real value and the potential of Adapt. And the I suppose the proof of the pudding is in the learning post story about having done that. Some of the best examples. There's lots of good examples, but one of the best ones I've got is we've got a restaurant chain who started to use Adapt Builder and built 7 courses in 6 days. And those courses were delivered out to waiting staff in restaurants all across the country with great feedback, and the content was really good. And that was an instructional designer with no technical skills whatsoever, but just a lot of enthusiasm and a bit of ingenuity, and she managed to pick it up. So I would say no. Of course, if you want to build really custom, really specific, really sophisticated e-learning content, then you need to get down with the code a little bit. But certainly you can cover a lot of bases without going there.
Okay, brilliant. And you mentioned the authoring tool, and there's updates and things that are being made to it. There's like a major release due soon of the authoring tool. Is that?
Yeah. That's a real question that I should know the answer to, but Sven might be able. I know it's been done. I'm not sure if it's actually available in the community yet. Has it been released to GitHub yet, Sven?
I can tell you the latest that's available is version 0.1.2. That's been available for the last 2 weeks. It brings with it a lot of changes in stability and various things, but it also packages the Adapt Hangout version 2. And that's one of the major upgrades, because ultimately, and maybe just to explain the difference between the framework and the authoring tool, the framework is really the part of the code, the technology that runs as part of the e-learning module. So it's what gets loaded in your browser and provides the functionality, such as the multiple choice, question, the narrative, the menu, the navigation, those kind of things. The authoring tool phase, which makes it possible for the non-technical user to input the data, publish it out, and then have, if you like, the learning package. Now, the framework, to a degree, always slightly ahead of the authoring tool in that there are changes that we want to make to the functionality of learning that we're doing. And the authoring tool has been catching up really well. What we've got to now is a very stable functional interface, which is 0.1.2, which has been released 2 weeks ago, and brings with it the functionality. We've also got a large team, so around about 15 people, 10 to 15 people who are focusing on the development of the authoring tool. We've got a roadmap there, which we've been discussing. We're currently looking at version 0.2, which we're developed on. We haven't got a published version, but we want to make releases often, so that people can access the new functionality that we're developing.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. Thanks for the update. I've got another question which I'll direct in the first instance. I'll direct that back to Sven. So sorry, Sven, you're back on. But are there any limitations to the kind of functionality that you can create in Adapt?
That's a really good question. So I think the first thing I'd like to echo is what Paul's been saying. Really, it's an open source. And the great thing about it is that anybody and everybody can really build what they want. In the background, what we've got and what we've paid particular attention to is that it's quite like a modular architecture and able to take whatever problems you like. So if you're wanting to modify it or extend the functionality, you don't have to learn the whole system. You don't have to change much in the core. You just create the plugin to give you the functionality you want. That's been really difficult, and since the latest release, we have actually also seen quite a lot of new plugins being developed. So there isn't really a limit to the functionality that you can do. However, having said that, when we back at the principle, this is responsive and good work on smartphone, tablet, and PC. What you have is something with that. Like, things that don't work well on smartphone might not be suitable for that. And to give you maybe two examples, one is system training. So it's harder to train on a system where you have to buy it and do it yourself. You don't quite have the real estate of the system. And the other is you've got immersive learning environments. So say, for instance, your virtual classrooms, and so on. So those are the two things that probably don't suit that well for that. However, having said that, the great thing about it is that that actually fits into those systems. And as long as those systems enable you to publish web content alongside it, embedding maybe the term into the tool, or providing it inside the version of it, then it works quite well. So they come together, but some of it you can't really do that well in Adapt, and I think especially systems training and immersive content are those.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And sticking with functionality a bit, I'll direct this to Jason because he obviously specialises in games, but is it possible to build games in Adapt?
Well, we're currently doing lots of experiments for that here at Sponge. The sort of short answer is yes, but the long answer is that Adapt itself, you can adapt it. It's based in JavaScript, which means you've got the ability to extend, add plugins, create your own extensions. So, for example, we've done projects where we've added in sort of game thinking elements. So, for example, linking off to leaderboards and having a running total of score, which appears up in your top header bar and things. So the sort of the feedback you'd ordinarily get from a gaming experience, as much as you can normally sort of squeeze into the serious games you get in e-learning, we can put into Adapt natively. But we're also thinking, because JavaScript is such a sort of ubiquitous language now, and there's so many great libraries and architectures out there you can use for making HTML5 content. Specifically, we use Phaser, which is another open source project, which is basically that allows you to create whatever game you like, and then you can wrap that up inside your own component. We've created a game component, and that just slots straight into your courses. And that because it's using the same architecture, the same language, can plug into all the other Adapt functionalities. So, for example, if you want to use Trickle, which basically where the rest of the course is locked off until you've completed each separate block within your course, it all ties into that. So at the end of the game, to say you've got a level in a game, when you achieve a certain score, or you complete the game elements that are required, then it will unlock the rest of the course, and you can move on, and then move into more traditional Adapt components, and then back into another gaming component. And because it can tie in so seamlessly, you can also wrap it around within the SCORM, so you can push back the scores that you've scored. You can push back things like page level progress, so you can see in your progress bar, that particular block now is been unlocked, and you can move through. So it's a case of taking Adapt and then using other technologies to complement that. And I think that the fact that because it's open source, it enables us to sort of trial things, and then other people can pick up the ball and carry on running with it, and obviously exponentially that improves the whole way that works. So currently our next project that we'll be releasing will have fully fledged games in it, all HTML5 responsive as well. So you can either have it so it goes full screen within Adapt when you're down on the mobile device, or as the same way Adapt, the way that works, where it changes the layout depending on which device you're in. You do the exact same thing within the game component. So if, say, you've got a landscape-based level, you can then recognise it's on the mobile device, change that around, so it's now stacked up vertically. So you can create a same sort of seamless experience that you would do with any other Adapt component. So I think it's very exciting what you can do with Adapt by plugging in external JavaScript libraries, which we've been doing. So I think that's the long answer, which is yes, you can make games, and if you can tie them in with the stylistics of the rest of the course, you can make a very sort of singular experience that's got a real sort of continuity to it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. very much. And I've got a couple more. We've actually had another question come in, but I'll come to that in a minute. Another one that I'll just direct at Paul. It's kind of two questions in one, which is it possible to incorporate Adapt into existing e-learning programs? You know, if you already have e-learning that you're running out, and also, does it work with any LMS?
Yeah, so on the first one, the answer to that is yes, and we're seeing lots of customers taking existing content and replacing it with new Adapt content, so it's really sort of a like-for-like swap out, really. And the big piece of work that we've been doing is to do that with our entire catalogue of 500 e-learning modules that our customers use. So we're thankfully near the end of that significant project now. But that's a very much a like-for-like thing. In terms of the LMS project, yeah, so the output is SCORM compliant at this moment, and that makes it runnable across multiple devices, multiple LMS platforms, and I think we've got plenty of evidence across probably all three of the collaborators of customers using it across LMSs. I think the next big piece of news around that will be about XAPI. So XAPI is obviously, you know, well, it's a lot of things, but one of the things it is hopefully a replacement standard and a better approach to that. So we've been picking up a little bit of work around that, and I've got a project across Adapt and Total LMS. So that's at prototype stage, and you know, as soon as it gets sort of product ready, we'll be releasing that back into the open source community, so that Adapt becomes a fully XAPI compliant authoring language, which I think gives it another tick in the box for companies who are potentially starting to think about using it. I think where the market is now is that XAPI is on everybody's list, but not everybody knows why it's on their list. But everyone knows it's coming. So I think having XAPI in the Adapt platform available as a plugin by the end of this calendar year would be a great thing, and cause some new LMS issues actually for some LMSs who are, but you know, it never lines up exactly right on.
Brilliant, thanks, Paul. Paul, we'll stay with you quickly if that's okay, because somebody's Learning Point has posted a question which says, Adapt is a collaboration project, and understand Learning Pool have Adapt Builder as their authoring tool. Is this being shared with the rest of the teams? And will there be a single authoring tool that will have the same features even if developed by different collaborators? So I think you're probably, obviously there's a slight difference between Adapt Builder and the authoring tool, so you're probably the best person to give a good answer to that.
Yeah, so Adapt Builder is the hosted version of the authoring tool that we deliver to our clients. It is the same code base. In fact, the open source version is a bit ahead of Adapt Builder just because we're doing some additional QA and performance tuning before we release it out to our customers, but we'll do that next week. Those two things are essentially the same code. There are some additional features in Adapt Builder that are not yet available in the open source version, but to be honest, those things are around course management and stuff that's built into the sort of Learning Pool ecosystem, and some stuff that we are still kind of playing with around theme customization that will get released to the open source project, frankly, as soon as we get around to it. But as you can appreciate, there's a sort of inevitable drain on resources that means you prioritize the backlog, and that's why those things. But effectively, the core product is exactly the same. So the Adapt Builder that we're delivering to our customers is exactly the same as the one that's in GitHub, and freely available for anyone to download and use.
Brilliant. We've got a couple more questions that they're all coming in live now. So John Curran, who's also the chair of the e-learning network, he's watching us. So hi, John. And he said, this is probably a good question for Sven. He said that his understanding is the authoring tool will be released soon for all to use. How robust will it be, and how well supported will it be? Developers who are able to work the framework directly and create their own components will be really able to make Adapt fly but he's keen to have a play himself and see if he can wean some of his clients off storyline onto Adapt. So
yeah, sure.
maybe you could give a bit more of an update on the authoring tool and the support.
Yeah, of course. So good question, John. Great question. So, where to start? So, how robust will it be? It will be robust enough for us, if you like, to get to being a market-leading author. And that's really the vision we've got. And that contains a number of things. Market-leading author, on the one hand, has to have relevance in the marketplace. It has to have the functionality. It has to do all of the things that like proprietary authoring tools are doing already. And we've got a good starting point in that. I think the one thing we've done from day one is to get responses right, and that's something that other authoring tools have sort of come in on afterwards. So I think with regards to the output, we're already very, very mature, I'd say. With regards to the authoring tool, what we have ready, as we've heard Paul say, is a tool that is being delivered and satisfied hundreds of customers. So that is very, very good. What we also have is a community which is very, very helpful and responsive. You can see that if you go to that forum, what you've got there is people helping each other. I think it's fair to say that at this point, installing it is still probably more technically minded amongst all of us. But that's again where the market leading side comes in the sense that if we are going to create a market leading authoring tool, that really has to be server-based tool. Because in a server-based environment, you get to account for data features like collaboration, review, with your team, maybe with clients who you're building it for, etc., etc. And all of those features require that makes it harder to install. But at the same time, people we consider early adopters, we're managing it by ourselves, really. And for those of everybody who's not in the space of even wanting to attempt it, what we, of course, have and want to do is to encourage all of the collaborators, as well as anybody else, really, to help themselves through and provide services to them. And that's how the license has been chosen. So with GPL version 2, everybody's able to do that, and everybody's able to provide services on it and charge for the services. However, whatever work product we do, we would really encourage you to give that back, as all of the existing collaborators are doing as well. So I think as we move along, more features will become easier to install, and you're already in a position where you can get professional services around. So hopefully we'll do a very good start.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much, Ben. I've got another question, which is just a quick question I'll direct at Jason, although I think Paul might probably have an answer to this as well. Came in via Twitter, which is, what is the recommended resolution when creating courses for laptop and tablet users?
Well, the best thing is to use some of the old sort of web standards to make sure that you're hitting the desktop sizes for the older browsers as well. I mean, that's the only bugbear for most developers, I'm sure, is that we still have to worry about IE 6, 7, and 8. And because of that, you have to sort of think about the maximum resolutions and the older devices. So the standard one is really for a desktop 1024 pixels wide. Obviously, height is entirely how much content you want to put in it. And we have a breakpoint for tablets, so when you get down to below 720 pixels wide in your device, then it will change down to the tablet layout. And if you want to think about using mobile as well, make sure, well, personally we use about 520 and below. That covers pretty much all the mobile handheld devices for up to your big old Nexuses down to your iPhone 4. So yeah, so 1024, 720, and 520 pixels are a good sort of benchmark for your breakpoints when you're doing your changing between different devices.
Cool, brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've had another comment following on from the authoring tool question earlier. We've been asked, is there a general agreement when a first release of the authoring tool will take place? Clients have been promised a user-friendly authoring tool for a year and would like to have the ability to update/maintain courses developed by vendors and eventually develop their own courseware. So I think we covered that a little bit in the last couple of, but I don't know if anyone has any other comments that they'd like to add around the authoring tool and the release. Obviously the questions come in at roughly the same time, so they slightly overlap.
Yeah, maybe one question, and that is that, or not a question, it's a comment that the more people we get helping out, the quicker we can go. Is probably the gist of it, really. We've got a roadmap for publishing on the site, and we encourage everybody really to contribute. But we don't put times against it. We're just working as fast as we can and making more releases as we go along. But if you want to see it faster, please be encouraged to join us.
Brilliant, thank you. And another one, this is actually specifically to Paul, and this is just coming via Twitter as well. What is your experience of using Adapt in terms of customer service and commercial impact? I don't know if there's anything that you can say about that publicly, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose we've been using Adapt for about, I think Sven reminded me yesterday, it was almost 2 years that we've been working on this project, or just over. And so we've been using this product for 18 months, and we've been using our version of, we've been using the authoring tool in a very serious way for a year now. And I think it goes back to a bit of Jason's point earlier, which is, sort of everything's changed and nothing's changed in terms of the design process and stuff. But what we found is that feedback from customers about using Adapt content is great. Feedback from learners is great. The scrolling thing is a really transformative thing for customers, and that's been we've kind of enjoyed the benefit of that across all sectors that we work in, and it's been great for business. So I think I was at DevLearn last week in the to Adapt, and I think the general feedback was that there was a real opportunity in the market for this approach to authoring, and that's good for business. And also, we saw lots of people who had downloaded the framework, installed the authoring tool locally, got over those humps and bumps of making the technology work, and built great content that they've used for commercial value. So I think, for us, customer service definitely increased. The commercial stuff, I think Kinney, ourselves and yourselves have struggled through making this product more mature, and having done that, everything we've done is available to the rest of the e-learning industry. So I think certainly I would be encouraging as many other companies to use it as possible, because it works and it's good for everybody.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So we've overrun by a whole 3 minutes, but I'd just like to finish. All of us have spoken about a community at some point, so I'll just go back to Sven just to finish with, if somebody wanted to get involved in the community, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great to finish as well. So I think the first thing is really to say that that's really what we want people to do. So don't think it's a number of big companies that are working together. There are plenty of individuals involved making a big difference, and we really encourage you and support you to get involved in the project, whoever you are. The first thing to do really is readiness. Let us know you'd like to be part of it. And as I said before, it's possible for individuals to make a big difference. And I've made a point to try and name check you here. So to say official thank you to Mike Palmer, Chuck Lawrence, Helen Muffin, Michael Memory, just to name a few. And there are also organisations, of course. We've got the collaborators, so Learning Pool, Sponge, Learn Champ, DevNet, and some other ones. Now we're looking for more on both sides. If you just get in touch, that'd be great. And we talked before about maybe share the community site at the end. So you've got please feel free to do that either via the phone, or send a personal message, or contact us on Gitter on the synchronous chat and say, hey, I'd be quite interested. Not sure what I can bring, but if you just raise that, that'd be fantastic. And there's a little page that you can show you where I've just written a few practical, simple steps of how you can get involved, what you can do, and that just gives you an idea. It's not all coding, the other thing. There's so much to be contributed, really, by just talking things through, thinking things through, testing, writing documentation, etc. Maybe even do graphical work. All of that's possible here. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting anybody who wants to come on board.
Brilliant. And we're just posting those links in the chat, the public chat where people were posting their questions. So there's the link to the community site, and there's also a link to the forum that you just mentioned, Sven. So everyone will be able to access those, and then from there they can get in touch with us and ask. Obviously, there's forums on the community site, so you can carry on asking more questions there. If anyone wants to ask further questions in the chat afterwards, or via the Adapt Learning handle on Twitter, then please do, and we'll collate some questions, and then we can always post some answers and things like that, and actually make those public. But thanks very much for joining us today. I hope it's been useful, and thanks to Paul, and thanks to Sven, and thanks to Jason for joining us and sharing your views, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.